Well, Pluto's still out there, far away on the edge of the solar system, as cold and distant as ever. So, what's changed? It's not Pluto itself, but how we understand it. Our knowledge of space has advanced so much in the past century, and Pluto, which was only discovered in 1930, isn't the only celestial body that's had its status revised over time. In fact, Pluto isn't the first object to be reassigned in the planetary lineup. In the early 1800s, astronomers discovered Ceres, an object orbiting the Sun between Mars and Jupiter. At first, it was classified as a planet, but as more similar objects were found in the same region, eventually numbering in the thousands, they were reclassified as asteroids. These were small, irregularly shaped objects that had more in common with each other than with the larger planets, like Mars or Jupiter. By the mid-1800s, we were back to learning about just 7 planets, and the solar system expanded once more with the discovery of Neptune in 1846. Pluto didn't join the ranks until 1930, but by that time, astronomers were beginning to refine their understanding of what qualifies as a planet. Early on, Pluto was thought to be a planet, even though it was much smaller than the other planets in the solar system. Early measurements suggested Pluto was about the size of Uranus or Neptune, but over time, it was found to be much smaller. In fact, Pluto is only about 1/459th the size of Earth, smaller than our Moon, and only twice the size of Ceres. Even when astronomers discovered Pluto's moon, Charon, in 1978, it didn't help Pluto's case. Charon is almost half the size of Pluto, and their orbits are so close that they actually orbit around a common center of mass, which causes Pluto to wobble in space, something most planets don't do. By the early 2000s, astronomers began to discover more objects similar to Pluto, especially beyond Neptune in a region called the Kuiper Belt. Then, in 2005, the discovery of Eris, another object similar to Pluto, was the final straw. Eris was a little smaller than Pluto, but slightly more massive, and that prompted the International Astronomical Union to revisit the definition of a planet. In 2006, they introduced a new definition, which included 3 criteria for being considered a planet. The object must orbit the Sun, it must be roughly spherical in shape, it must have cleared the neighborhood around its orbit, meaning it has become gravitationally dominant and removed most other objects from its vicinity. Pluto met the first 2 criteria, but it failed the third. It hasn't cleared its orbit of other objects, and this was the key factor in its reclassification as a dwarf planet. Not everyone agreed with this decision. Some astronomers argued that the definition should be revised so that any object with enough mass to be roughly spherical would count as a planet. Under this idea, Pluto could return to the Planet Club, but so could many other objects like our Moon, moons of other planets, and even Ceres. If this definition were accepted, the number of planets could jump to over 100, which is a far cry from the manageable number of 8. Even though the current definition isn't perfect, it helps draw a line between true planets and other objects like Pluto. As some astronomers point out, a planet's status could depend on where it orbits, not just its physical characteristic. So, despite Pluto's continuing charm, especially with its quirky name, inspired by the Disney dog, it's unlikely that it will be reclassified as a planet anytime soon. It's a tough pill to swallow for some, but that's the way the science has evolved. And even if Pluto doesn't make the cut, it'll always hold a special place in our hearts and in the history of space exploration. Follow for more.